All right, says I am live. And hello. And if you're watching this live, then you don't exist because it says there's 0 people. But if you're watching this later, um, I tested everything ahead of time. And I can't tell you how many times I've done one of these impromptu streams from down here, and I'm yammering away. And an hour into my explanation that I've given everything detailed to my liking, and I'm so happy with the flow and how everything's going, I get a message from Dune that goes, "Hey, dude, your mic's not working." So I'm going to take a quick moment here at the top of the stream while we're waiting for people to jump in, just to bring up the stream on my phone and make sure that my microphone is actually working. So I'm going to do that. And let's take a look here. Because I am streaming to 3 streams. Since this is a computer-related stream, I'm streaming to the Computer Bar YouTube channel, which I don't think has a lot of members or subscribers, which makes sense. I've not been that active there. Um, and let's see. Let's take a look at that. And let's make sure I can hear me. All right, sound is working, and hopefully it'll keep working. Yeah, so I've not been all that active with the Computer Bar channel, so I'm also streaming to the Johnny Gators YouTube channel because that's where more subscribers and people that know me for my various interests or things watch, and of course also to the Johnny Gators Twitch channel. So got all my bases covered there. Although Five Hit Dune's probably going live with the tunes, but that's okay because you can always catch the replay. So yeah, what really motivated this is I have a thing for the ComputerLand BC-88. What do I mean by I have a thing for it? Well, I could start going into a bunch of dirty jokes right now, but I won't. I'll let you fill that in. No, I mean, this was the model computer that I had growing up, and so to start with, I had a desire to have one of these because the one that we had growing up, I left on the curb one day because it just wasn't practical anymore. There was no practical use for it anymore, and it's funny. I'm actually going to talk a little bit about practicality because you would think that the word practical would not come up in the world of vintage computing. Vintage computer as a hobby is not exactly a practical thing. It's a fun thing. It's a knowledgeable thing. It's a hobby thing. But it's not exactly a practical thing. But there is practicalities when it comes to that. And one of those practical things is rule one: don't buy old vintage inkjet printers. Rule two: don't deal with the old vintage hard drives. Just get an XCIDE card and use a flash card. And we've seen what happens when Rule 1 gets broken. But here we're going to talk about Rule 2, because the thing is that rules are made to be broken, and those rules I just kind of made up anyways. Well, I made up Rule 2 anyways. Someone else helped me out with Rule 1. But anyways, the thing is that when it comes to these computers, it's not really about practicality, it's about nostalgia. And the one I had growing up wasn't running off of a flash card. So obviously that makes me want to play with the old vintage hard drives. But if you're going to play with the old vintage hard drives, it's good to have some knowledge and also have the tools and also have options. Because I've found actually this computer here, which doesn't have a hard drive in it, is quite a fun computer. And that's been fun because I've acquired a collection of these. So this is one that is the best conditioned one. And Mod Pro in the house. Hello, Mod Pro. And you know, is it weird that when I see Mod Pro say hi, my first reaction is, "Oh, should I show my feet?" But maybe that's a bit. At some point, we're going to take this running joke too far. and Mod Pro will be sure to tell us when that happens. But hello, Mod Pro. So yeah, I guess I'd like to start by talking about the collection of ComputerLand BC-88 computers that I have. This one's kind of one of my, well, I want to say it's my favorite, but I actually have two favorites. But this is my favorite because it's the nicest, cleanest looking one. It's in great shape. I mean, heck, this beige case has not yellowed, and I know that because it looks so bright and shiny next to the other ones I have. Uh, Mod Pro saying I should only do that when Dune's here. Okay, all right, got it. Mod Pro's not interested in my feet. Mod Pro is interested in Dune's reaction to feet, which I sent him a video about that the other day, so we're gonna have to talk about that tomorrow. Anyways, so this is nice and shiny. So of course, when I got this one, my first thought was, oh, I should, this is the good one. I should build this the way I want my primo perfect one to be. I should put a nice, but I couldn't bring myself to take out one of these floppy drives to add in a hard drive. And adding a hard drive, I have to have it in the middle there with one floppy drive because that's what the family computer I grew up with was like. So turning this computer into the computer like our family computer, it just seemed a little heartbreaking to me to separate these beautiful, brand new, excellent condition floppy drives that were in this machine and to start parting out this machine. This is not a machine to part out. This is a machine to keep as it is for the most part. Um, and so a few things I've done with this machine is I've generally my XT card resides in here. Now, of course, I only have one XT card, so when I need to use it to start playing around with things or doing things, it moves around. But generally, it kind of resides in here, and that's how I use this computer. I use this computer running a flash drive to emulate a hard drive off the XT card, and it looks nice. And I've also swapped out the CGA card that was in here for an EGA card I had lying around. So it runs a little nicer with EGA graphics. So yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and turn this on. And I have over here my currently only working CGA monitor. Because over next to me is my favorite CGA monitor, the Cystine CGA monitor, which also has green and amber mode on it. Oh, doing it's not live tonight. Oh, he's going to the airport at 6 a.m. Oh, I guess he's not going live tomorrow. Unless he's going live from a hotel room tomorrow. I'll have to find out. Anyways, when I started working on these computers again, I pulled this out of the basement and started setting things up to do things, which we'll talk about. And this monitor suddenly went dim. And it goes so dim that when you turn it on, instead of a white screen, it has a very dim screen, but it's glowing. And then, like, it's so dim that the text doesn't show up anymore when you turn on the computer. So now I have two broken Cystine CGA monitors, one that's dim and one that doesn't turn on. Um, I'm thinking this could probably be fixed by a little bit of a recapping job, but we all know how good I am at getting around to those. So I don't know what I'm going to do about that. But for now, I still have this working CGA monitor. And Warhawk in the house. So now the one downside with these computers, and again, I have two more of these in working condition down on the floor next to me here. And this one is the one that I'm setting up to be the most like the one I had growing up. It's got a Tandem 20 meg hard drive in it. It boots to DOS 3.30. I've not found the ComputerLand version of DOS 2.11 that these came with yet. But this one is basically built to be just like as close to the one I had growing up as I can. It kind of, it works with a vintage MFM drive, which we're going to talk about those because there's a lot that could be taught about those. Because dealing with MFM drives is not for the faint of heart, which is why a good starting point is an XT card with a flash card to emulate a hard drive like we're doing in this one here at the moment. This one was another one I picked up because it had a hard drive inside of it, which it turned out to not have ComputerLand software or ComputerLand DOS in it. But I've kind of pieced it together into a working computer as well. And then recently another one turned up on eBay, and that's the parts, the rusty parts on the chair behind the next to the TV over there. So that came with actually it's a half height Seagate ST225 hard drive at B20 meg, but with a full, no, actually, I take that back. That was another hard drive I'm playing with. That drive is I think it's a 42 meg hard drive. It's a I forget the company name. It starts with an M, but we're going to look a little closer at that later because I'm a little stuck on that one, and I fear it might be dead. But I'm going to appeal to anyone out there that knows more than what I talk about tonight to give me any suggestions what to pursue further with that. But so I'm actually going to, at some point, I'm going to have a better capture of our computer screen. I do not have a capture card that captures a CGA or EGA signal, so we're just going to have to focus the camera on the monitor here. But we're going to talk about another trick. So if you're going to get into vintage computing on this level, it's good to accumulate a few of the same model computer because then you can accumulate spare parts. And it's good to have spare parts, and it's good to have known working parts. And that's what we're really going to talk about when we dig into what one should know about MFM drives if they're going to pursue going beyond the flash card emulation into MFM hard drives, because they're not easy to work with at first, but as you get to know them, they get easier to work with. Not to mention they're aging and ready to die, pretty much. But the first thing I have to do on this computer, which is a pain in the ass, is set the date and time. So we know that today is 4/20/2024. And this is when Dune starts screaming about Y2K being a hoax. Oh, we'll get into that because the software that would automatically set the clock is not Y2K compliant. So if I had my family computer growing up, once the year 2000 hit around, if I hadn't tossed it out, the date would have stopped working in it. Now, manually setting the date would still work. But anyways, so what time is it right now? Right now it is 9:30. So it is 21:33. All right, 21:33. And I have to do that every time I turn on this computer. And this one is the only one I have that the speed light works correctly, which is glowing amber right here, right now. I can't get that to work on my others. I have a suspicion that of where the jumpers are for that, and maybe with a little bit of wiring, I can make that work again on some of the others. But anyways, I did a little research, and someone in South Korea has done a little playing around with the clock software and the clock chip, because it's a Motorola chip that's on the computer card that does the real-time clock. And someone, and this computer was based on a South Korean company's computer that they then contracted out or built out for ComputerLand. And someone was able to find the app for that original computer model and modify it to work with this computer. And they've also built an app that's supposed to fix the Y2K issue. And this is going to be something we're going to find out together live because I have just loaded it onto the flash card. That's the other convenient thing about using an XT IDE card with a flash card for the hard drive is it makes it so easy to throw software onto these computers rather than using 5 1/4 floppies to copy onto a 20 megabyte MFM hard drive, which then fills up easily. You could just take the flash card out of the back of the computer while it's turned off, plug it into an adapter, USB adapter on your modern computer, and drag and drop files into there. So I've made a folder in here called clock, and I put 2 executables in here that someone on the internet gave me. So I'm sure they're safe to run. I had to use the browser to translate from South Korean to English, so I'm sure it is So one's called RTC BC-88E, which I think is the clock executable, and then the other one is RTC2K, which I think does some kind of programming change that will make it BY2K compliant. So let's start by just running the original program and see what we can do. RTC BC-88E. First time running this executable, I have no idea what this is going to do. BC-88 real-time clock utility version 1.01a. Copyright TriGen Computer. Please verify the RTC date and time. BC-88 RTC program. Okay, so new date. 2-digit year. Well, let's try it and see what would happen so that we can give Dune his, here's your Y2K error. All right, so we're going to do a 2-digit year of 24. It'll probably think it's 1924, and I don't think 1924 is a valid date in DOS. So we might get an error. Month, 04, day, 20. New time. Our hour is, well, not 09, 21. Minute is 36. Return to DOS? Yes. All right. Now let's see what it says the time is. It says the time is 9:36, 26.03 p.m. Let's see what it says the date is. It says the date is 4/20/2024. Now let's see what it says this all is when we reboot the computer. It says it's January 1st, 1980. Okay, so that the question is, did it not work because of Y2K, or did it not work because it's not the right program, or there's something else wrong with it, or did it not work because I haven't changed the battery in this, and even though I didn't power off the computer without the battery, a reboot still drained it? Well, let's tell you what we're gonna do. We're gonna do that again. Well, we're just gonna hit enter on the default, and we're gonna run the command again. This time we're gonna set it to 1999. All right, what's this? RTC BC-88E. Okay, so now we're gonna set this to 9904. Nope, not 29, 20. And the new day time is 21:37. Return to DOS. Okay, and so now the time is right, and the date is 1999. So now we're going to reboot and party like it's 1999. Let's see. It says the date is January 1st, 1980. Okay. Huh. Why is this not working? Well, that is a bummer. It could be that I need to do this on a computer with a battery. And I have replacement surprisingly, you can, one of the things that comes up when you Google ComputerLand BC-88 is an order site to order replacement batteries for them. And surprisingly, when you give them your credit card number, they send you the batteries. And I know that because I ordered 3 of them, and they showed up. And I've soldered 2 of them in place. I've not soldered one into this one yet, though, because they got metal prongs that you got to solder into place. And removing the old batteries is a pain in the ass because they got little metal legs that, the tab you kind of bend over and then solder into place. So even after you take the solder out, it's like a little metal tab that it doesn't want to straighten out and pull out of the hole, but still has little bits of solder. Kind of, it's a pain in the fucking ass to change them. Anyways, what I'd like to do is try running the 2K compliant executable and just see what that does, even though we tried to pretend like it's still 1999 and that's not an issue. So let's see what it does. All right, so it's RTC 2K. Process, read DOS year 1980. Process, set DOS year 2020. Result, DOS year changed to 2020. Okay. So now, all right, but did it change it on the real-time clock? And if I reboot, will it hold on to that? $19.80. Huh. All right, looks like I need to do a little bit more South Korean translating on that website, or I need to figure something else out. Anyways, it was a fun little first time thing to try here live with you guys. But I'm sure as much fun as it is staring at a blurry screen, that's not what we're really here to do. So we're going to turn this monitor off, and we're going to turn this tower off. So what does one do if they buy a computer with an MFM hard drive in it, and they're not sure, like the computer doesn't turn on, you're not sure what's working or what's not working? Because this pile of parts I have over here is a rust bucket, and the power supply ain't even supplying power to anything. So where do you even begin? Well, the best thing to do is to test parts one by one in a known working computer. So that's why I have this on the table and that and parts in the chair over there. So you're going to want to get under the hood. For our convenience, I have already removed the 4 screws in the back that hold the case on. So we're going to go ahead and take that off. And now we got ourselves a lab computer to work on and test things on. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to swap the video card out, because one of the things that these computers can do is they can run VGA video cards, and VGA video cards are much easier to capture and share on the screen. So here's my old EGA card. We'll just take that out for the moment, put it off to the side over here. And I've got over here an ISA VGA card. It's got connections for a 16-bit ISA slot. This bus has 16 and 8-bit slots in it because it is upgradable to a 286 computer, but running as an 8088, it's only running in 8-bit, and this card does work in an 8-bit slot, and it will slide into an 8-bit slot. Even if I slid into one of the 16-bit slots, it's not going to be using that portion. So we're going to go ahead and slide that in there. I'm going to go ahead and put this screw back in place just to keep it from getting lost, even though I'm probably going to swap this back at some point. And I have back here a VGA cable. And this way, if you're having trouble keeping working CGA monitors, or you have a CGA monitor that stops working on you suddenly and you don't have a spare that still works, in a pinch, you can keep using these older computers on more modern monitors, because having a VGA monitor kicking around is far more likely than having a working CGA monitor kicking around. And also what I have here is a StarTech capture box, which I've fed into OBS, which we can capture that window. So I'm going to go ahead and I am going to do a screen share of my OBS window, because I'm not streaming from OBS, I'm streaming from StreamYard, so I can stream to multiple streams at the same time. So this is not exactly the normal method of doing these things. And now if we turn this on, you can see that up in OBS here, we got the Trident VGA card booting up. And one thing that's good to know, it's good to know your hardware. Your computer that you're going to use to test things, get to know it, get to know how it works. Because you saw that RAM test it does. Well, I know that this computer will start that RAM test just about immediately if there's no hard drive present, if there's no hard drive controller present. But if there's a hard drive controller present, it will stay on the black screen with a blinking cursor for a while, registering that before it starts doing the memory test. And so if you ever flip on this computer and you're trying to get a hard drive working and you see it just immediately does the RAM test, that doesn't mean that, oh, good, no 1701 error, I'm all set. No, that means, oh, it is so bad it doesn't even see that the card's connected because it didn't even try to communicate with it. So it's good to know your hardware. Speaking of which, we're actually going to connect some hardware. So let's flip this off for now. And I'm going to set a better camera angle now that we're screen sharing a screen capture. So hello again. So we're going to talk about this pile of parts. So the main reason I bought this rust bucket of a machine is because I really wanted to know what's on this hard drive. And this hard drive was in the computer connected to this hard drive controller. And let's talk a little bit about hard drive controllers. So let's come back over to camera. So MFM hard drive controllers generally will have a few different sets of pins, and you have two cables that connect to your MFM hard drives. So this first cable has the wider connection on it, and you'll see that this has a red stripe on it, which goes towards pin 1. So it's to the left here. And if you're ever in doubt, you could usually find some kind of a model number on your hard drive controller and find the documentation on it, which can be very useful because some of these have jumpers on them that need to be set to the right place based on your type of hard drive. So it's good to find the documents for your hardware, find the document for your controller, find the documentation for your hard drive, review it, review jumper settings, things like that. But if you're lucky, you might want to consider that things were configured properly when they were put away. So the way the things come out of the machines is a good starting point. The chances are more likely that it got put away with the jumpers in the right place than someone just mixing up a bunch of jumpers that are hard to get at, or moving cables around and then putting it away. Anything's possible, so it's good to double check those things, but it's also good to take pictures of the way things are set up and use that as your starting point and kind of work under a logical guess that that's where it should be. So anyways, red stripe to the left of these. Now this thinner cable, so this thicker cable is kind of to control the drive, to communicate with the drive, whereas the thinner cable is your read-write data cable. And one of the big things that you're going to see a lot of if you start getting into getting these MFM drives working is when you first turn on your computer, if there's a problem, it'll put the code 1701 up on the top of the screen. And 1701 is a rather generic error that says, yeah, we see that we should be able to communicate with the hard drive, but we can't. And what I've found is that the 1701 error generally has nothing to do with this drive, this cable. If this cable is working and connected right and the drive is working right and it's communicating with that, when it's first booting up, it goes, okay, I see you, I can control you, I can give you commands, you're good. Because the first BC-88 that I bought and played around with, I actually had a bad cable like this, and it took me a long time to figure that out because I was getting 1701 errors. The computer could see a hard drive was present. The computer was trying to do things with the hard drive, but then it was like timing out and it wasn't giving me a very clear error or message of what was going on. And I basically just had a hunch that maybe I should buy new cables. And that's another thing. You can get new MFM cables. They're generally ordered to be built when you order them, not ready to go. But there are operations that make custom cables that list like every type of cable you can think of, and you tell them the length that you want it, and then they put it together. Usually your drive's going to be the first drive or primary drive. It's going to be connected to this first connection, not the second one that has the twisted pair there. A lot of cables don't even have the second one. They only have the first one. And then the first drive is going to get connected to, each drive gets their own little cable, because if you peel this back, you can see there's a a spot under here that you could connect the second one of these to. So the second drive would have to have the right jumpers for it and would get connected to the second one with the twisted pair and would get connected to the second. But we're not going to deal with, I have enough trouble getting one drive to work. I've not been that successful at getting two drives to work on the same controller. I've tried it once and I kept running into problems. And when I tested every part individually, they were all working. When I tested every configuration individually, they were all working. When I put it all together and turned it on, computer said no. So I gave up on trying to go from one small 20 meg drive to two small 20 meg drives for a whopping 40 megs of storage on one of these machines. So anyways, it's good to have multiple controllers and cables, and it's good to have a controller and cables that you know are working, because that's going to help you out a lot to test things with a hard drive. Because we got this controller, these cables, and this hard drive that all came in that rust bucket, and they don't work out. It's like, what's not working? Well, actually, what I did have. So let's go through what I went through. So I'm going to put this controller card in a slot here. And we're going to take this hard drive and we're going to connect our cables. So these were connected with red to the left, if we're looking at it, or red towards that way. Red towards towards the left if we're looking at the drive front on. To the right if we're looking at it from the back. And we just need to grab a Molex power connector here. I should have a spare one floating around in here. Here it is. And we're going to connect that in to the hard drive. All right, so everything is connected in here as it should. Oh, and the other thing we're going to do, we're going to take the XT-IDE card out. You should be able to run both an XT-IDE card and an MFM drive if you have everything configured right, but I don't know anything about the configuration of this drive, and it's just easier to not have multiple things that could cause interference. So I'm going to take that out and put that off to the side. All right, so there we go. We got our hard drive connected to power and both cables. Everything's connected up right. It's connected to the controller that it was last working in, which is, even though I say it's good to have known working things, there's no guarantee that this hard drive is going to work with a different controller. You might have to low-level format. The thing is I've heard that, like, oh, if you move from one controller to another, you're going to need a low-level format. I've not run into that every time. I've swapped MFM drives between different controllers and have them come up just fine. I don't know if I'm lucky or if it's a 50-50 thing and I've been on the lucky side, or what, but my experience has been is that they can pass around between controllers, but certainly there's no guarantee that that's going to work every time. All right, so let's go back to our window display here, and we're going to turn this on. And we got a blinking cursor, and this is a little normal. It's normal when it detects a hard drive controller for it to think a bit more and communicate and set that up. But you'll start to get a feel for how long is normal and how long is too long. And when you get to that too long range, that means we're probably going to see a 1701 pop up here shortly. And there it is, 1701, and now there's our RAM test going. So yeah, that means we have a problem. So how do we deal with these 1701 errors? Well, one easy thing we can do is we can, in this case, you can take a known working controller and cables and connect this hard drive to that, see if you get the error, which I can tell you right now. If I grab another known working controller and cables, and I connect it to this hard drive, I get a 1701 error. Now, of course, that is not a guarantee that the hard drive is dead. It could just be that the hard drive doesn't like that controller. Although I think even if you're going to low-level format, you have to boot without the 1701. So that's not a good sign that even changing controllers, you're still getting a 1701. So one thing we can do, though, to see, do we have bad cables? Do we have a bad controller here? What do we have? Is we could take this hard drive off, and over here, I have a Seagate ST225 that came in one of these computers. And this drive, I know it works, and I know it boots up. And I know it's been working fine the last time it was connected. I know it was working fine the last time it was connected earlier today. Of course, if the last time I boot this up was, a year ago, then, we're hoping that it didn't break. But this is what I did, and it was like at least a year since I last booted up, and it still did. So I'm going to go ahead, connect our Molex connector for power. We're going to connect our MFM cables. This has got this little piece of cardboard here getting in the way of my cables, but we're going to go ahead and we're going to try that again. There we go. And let's go ahead and flip the power on and see what we get on this one. One thing I got to say is I've found I've seen ComputerLand computers have these ST225 disks in them. I've seen them have and the one I had growing up had the Tandon hard drive in it. I like the Tandon hard drives because that's what I grew up with, but I've found that these Seagate drives tend to stand a better chance of working than the Tandon drives. If only I didn't have the nostalgia for the Tandon drives. All right, let's see what we got here. All right, and we see we've booted up to, it is asking for the date. So yeah, this controller and these cables are working fine. So we know that in our rust bucket pile of parts, we got a good controller, we got a good set of cables. So that is now known working equipment. Of course, we'll go ahead and enter some things in here. And this hard drive I've left the same as it was when it was as it was in the computer I found it in. And so this hard drive was set to boot up to this little menu here. Of course, we can exit to DOS. And it's got some games on here, I think, if I recall correctly. Yeah, let's see. Well, there's a folder called Games. Well, it's got Wheel of Fortune on it. Yeah, we're gonna I don't think we're gonna sit here and play a game of this though. We'll exit out of here shortly. But yeah, so but here's something else I did today. And I like to use this park command before I shut down to park the head. Generally, you don't need to do this if a computer is staying stationary. I think this command really kind of dates back to the days of the luggable computers that you want to park the drive uh, if you're going to pack up the computer and carry it home or carry it somewhere, so that way you don't have the head banging around on the platter. Of course, for me, this is good practice because I'm going to take this hard drive and go store it somewhere. It's not stationary in the computer, or I move these computers around all the time. So yeah, it's a good idea to get in the habit of doing that if you're dealing with collection equipment that you're moving around to different tables, things like that. All right, we're going to turn that off. So anyways, we know that we have a working set of cables and a working controller. Now, what if you have a drive that's not giving you a 1701 error, but it's not working? Well, that was something I ran into today because I found that I'm dropping things. Well, I found in amongst my computer another Seagate ST225, which I didn't know if it worked or not. And this one came out of a compact portable and has a full height plate on it, even though it's a half height hard drive. I could take this plate off in there, use it as an internal drive on one of these computers. I could put a shorter height on it. I could do stuff with this. But I had no idea what the deal was with this and this hard drive was also connected to its own controller and cables that it came out. Basically, it was a parts machine I picked up. It was a compact portable that someone just cut the keyboard off of. So it's missing the original keyboard, and I had two other compact portables that had their own issues. And so by buying a third machine that was impossible to restore without finding a keyboard somewhere, I basically was able to have enough parts to put together two working compact portables. Um, and this was kind of a leftover part. I ended up not using any of them because I decided to have one compact portable with a hard drive that came in it and the other one with two floppies. And so I decided to just keep this around as a spare. And so I found through, this controller, the controller this came with, I could get my computer to boot up without a 1701 error, but I couldn't access anything on the drive. And at this point, I really didn't care what was on this drive. It was just sitting in the compact portable. It probably had compact DOS on it. Um, sometimes if it just doesn't work out and you got to format it. Um, Now, the drive that came in the parts ComputerLand machine, I really want to try to find what data's on there before I give up on it. But this drive, usually it's rare that you find good treasure on a hard drive. Usually they're business computers. You find business software, which is entertaining for about a half hour, and then it's like, okay, I don't have any accounting to do, and I have no idea where the books are for this business. So let's wipe it and put something fun on it. Um, yeah. So what I did today was I connected this drive after I gave up on trying to get the other drive to work because that drive I cannot get past the 1701 error. But I connected this drive, and of course now when I connect this drive, it's going to work perfectly fine because I've already gone through and done things to fix it. But we're going to pretend that it's not. We're going to pretend that we are not getting a 1701 error, which we're not, but that then nothing's booting up on it, and when we boot to the A drive, we can't access it, doesn't see a C drive, F disk doesn't see it either. And so one thing that we need to have if we're going to deal with this is a method to boot up. And so I have a set of floppy disks. If you're going to get into this stuff, another thing not for the faint of heart, floppy disks. Oh, God, they die. They're old. They fail. You can buy new ones. Even the new ones, can fail on you pretty easily. But if you're really going to dig into the weeds of the vintage, you got to have some known working floppy disks and build yourself like some DOS bootable disks and some other tools and things like that. And so I have this bootable 3.30. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to boot to our A drive. And there's three commands we're going to need to deal with. fdisk is what we use to make a partition. Format is what we use to format the partition. The debug command is what we're going to use if we need to do a low-level format, which if you're running into problems, sometimes you need to redo the low-level format on these drives before you can create a partition and create a format. And that is what brought this drive back to life. So I'm going to, since we're talking about MFM drives, I'm going to show you this process in case you run into that if you're digging into this, because I don't think any of the vintage PC streamers have really dug into this process or into the MFM drives. Generally, the rule of thumb is avoid them and use flashcards. And hello, Dune. Yeah, Dune's got to get up stupid early, so he's checking in a little bit, see what's going on here. So here we are, typing in our date. Please, Dune, hold the Y2K comments. I can find you a Y2K error if you want me to, but this is not where we're going to run into one. All right, so now we're at 2206. Okay, so we boot it to our A drive, to our floppy. Now, if I go to C drive, it's going to see it fine. But earlier today, I had this drive connected. I had my cables on, my jumper's all right, no 1701 error, and yet I still couldn't see a C drive. And if I run fdisk, it sees the disk and it asks me if I want to create a DOS partition on there. But when I did this earlier, it was basically telling me no disks present. So yeah, I had disconnected, cables connected, no 1701 error, and fdisk tells me it can't see a drive. That's what the situation was earlier. And so at that point, it's time to take out disk 1, find where I put my case of floppies. I put it over here. And take out DOS 3.30 disk 2. And we're going to put that in there. And that disk has the command debug on it. So what we're going to do is we're going to run debug. And we get a dash, because if you're running debug, that means you know what you're doing, and they're not even going to tell you do something now. They're going to give you a dash and go, you know what to do, tell us. And what do? I Google. I Google for the command that I've typed in a handful of times that I do not memorize. And that command that we need to type in here is G equals C800:5. All right. Let me pull up my screen and make sure that looks right. It does. And we're going to hit enter. And there we go. Super BIOS 2 formatter reversion 1.0. Copyright Western Digital 1988. Current drive is C. Select new drive or return for current. So even though fdisk doesn't see a C drive, this sees it. And I hit enter to continue. Current interleave is 3. Yeah, I just hit enter, and that served me well. Are you dynamically configuring the drive? Answer Y, no. If you answer Y, it's going to ask you a bunch of questions you don't know the answer to. If you enter N, it just does its thing. So I've always just hit N here. Maybe if someone else decides to dive into this topic, they could give more details as to why typing in N works. I think what N does is it uses the settings on the controller, whereas Y basically lets you manually set how many sectors, how many this and that and the other, which is information that if you look up, have the documentation for the hard drive, which you should, it would be good to pull up a document for the Seagate ST225 to have on hand if you're going to dig into it. You could get all that information. I might have a document somewhere on one of my computers, but I've not run into a problem hitting N on this. So we'll hit N, we'll hit enter, press Y to begin formatting drive C with interleave 3. And we're going to hit Y. And there we go. Now it's going to go ahead and it's going to do the low level format. And now we wait. And this show has been brought to you by Sam Adams Porch Rocker. So yeah, we're also going to, after we finish this format, we're going to do the F disk, make a partition, format the drive, and we're going to go over how to do a installation of older versions of DOS onto a drive like this. And then we're going to show that it will boot up to the hard drive. And then if I wanted to, I could put this hard drive in the tower somewhere and just have this computer boot up to that. But I'm not going to do that. I'm instead going to put the hard drive back into storage and put the XCIDE card back in, because that's how I generally use this machine. So this process takes time. I'd say it's a 1 cup of coffee process, not a 2 cup of coffee process. And that's tricky when you have processes that take time, but you don't know how much time it takes, and it's such a variable of time that you can't get a good frame of reference from someone. Because the first computer I had a bad data cable on my MFM cables, which meant that the computer could control the drive and communicate with the drive, but it couldn't read write data to the drive. And when you try to do this process with a bad data cable, it'll still try to do it, and it will run for hours. And the first time you do it, you don't know if it's normal or not normal for this process to take hours, because this is generally not a process that you did even when you bought one of these new. You bought one of these computers, this stuff was done for you. You brought it home, you turned it on, you used DOS. It's really only the techs that really got into how to do this type of stuff. So this just isn't stuff that I knew. And so I remember multiple times trying to do this. And every time I tried to do it, it would take hours of time out, and I'd let it do it for hours. Because for all I knew, it was just a normal thing that, yeah, this rare process that one does to do an initial setup takes hours. But no, that's not the case. It shouldn't take hours. As you saw, it's already done. Now, it asks if you want to format bad tracks. Now, some hard drives, you might notice on these drives, there might be writing on it or a place to write any known bad sectors or bad tracks. And they might just have an N written on there. But that's a thing that if there's a known bad track or bad sector from testing on this, you could mark that through here. But I don't know of any bad tracks to mark, so I'm going to hit an N on that. And now, once that we've done this, it's going to reboot the computer. So it's basically telling us, hey, we need to make sure that you have a bootable DOS floppy in the drive. So please put that in now. And since the debug command is on disk 2, we need to swap back in disk 1 of DOS. And we're going to hit our any key. And we're going to boot back up to DOS 3.30 from our floppy drive, because our hard drive has a low-level format on it, but it still doesn't have anything installed on it to boot to. This is, okay, there we go. We have no 1701, so we're still good there, no errors. And we're doing our memory test. And we're booting the floppy. So now that we did the low-level format, we need to do just a standard format, high-level format. But we also got to build a partition. So again, that was what I did earlier. Earlier, I'd boot up. I couldn't see a C drive. F disk didn't want to talk to the disk. I did that process. I did the reboot, and F disk worked. So this is a handy trick to know that can sometimes bring an old dead hard drive back to life if you pick something up and want to play around with it and use it. All right, 4/20/24. It is 22/14. Oh, invalid date. Oh, I have to put 2024. Okay, it's 22/14. There we go. So now F disk is on disk 1 here, so we don't need to swap our DOS disk. So we're just going to type in F disk, hit enter. And for those people that worked with, like, up into the Windows 98, 90, you might have still done this as recent as that. This was still a process I did many times in the Windows 95, 98, 2000 era. All right, so we're going to do select choice 1, create a DOS partition, and option 1, create primary DOS partition. Okay, do you wish to use maximum size? Yes, I do. And there we go. And so now after it does that, it's going to again reboot and ask you to be sure you have your DOS disk in drive A. So we are rebooting now with a partition on our drive. Okay, 420, 2024. Oh, there we go. And it is 2216. Okay, so now, let's see, how long before Frogger? Well, um, I don't think I wasn't planning on pulling out the Commodore 64. I don't think I have a PC Frogger, but we could get some Donkey Kong going on here shortly. Um, but first we've got to format the drive. So we're gonna format is what we're gonna do. I think we do format and the okay, there we go. All data on removable disk. Drive C will be lost. Proceed with format. Yes, because all right, now this part's going to take a little while. Dune running in, how many times does it make you put the date time in? Every time I boot this machine. This machine has a Motorola real-time clock chip in it. I've read lots of documentation on it, and although it tells me the details of the pin input and the pin output and the voltage and this and that and the other, it doesn't tell me what damn executable I need to run to make it work right. I did find someone online in South Korea that has a website that goes into a bit more detail. Apparently, the command that the Motorola chip uses is not Y2K compliant, or the chip is not Y2K compliant. So even if I could get this chip to work with the date, it would stop working after December 31st of 1999. But the person supposedly ran a executable that fixes that bug. I did test it here earlier at the start of the stream for the first time, and I couldn't get it to work. It would say it set the date, I'd reboot, it was back to 1980. In theory, there is a way to make this computer automatically set the date and time every time it boots up with the real-time clock chip that's built into it. I just don't have the right executable or correction, Y2K correction, even if I had that. That is why I bought the other computer that had this hard drive in it, because I was hoping that this hard drive still had the original configuration for a ComputerLand BC-88, including whatever configuration would make the damn clock card work. But no matter what I do, I keep getting a 1701 error every time I boot up this hard drive. And so that's kind of my appeal to anyone who's stumbles on this video that is watching along and screaming at me at all the inaccuracies or the technical things I've gotten wrong about MFM drives. If you know more than me about this, please let me know if you have any other ideas. Because like I said, I am using this with the controller and cables that it was connected with. I have found documentation online. I believe all my jumpers are in the right place. The jumpers on there. There's everything looks right on that to me, based on what I've read on the documentation. This drive does power up and spin up and make noise. Um, and I have confirmed that this controller and these cables work with this other hard drive that we're doing right now. And despite all that, when I have everything connected correctly, and this spins up and I turn it on, I am consistently getting 1701 errors on this. And I've even tried connecting it as if it were a second drive on the twisted pair on the second thing, just to check if that, because if you have that configured wrong and connected to the wrong connection on the cable, that will give you a 1701 error. But I found it connected without the twisted pair on the first connection when it was in the computer that I got. So, I mean, the the easy guess to go with is, well, it sounds to me like you got a bad hard drive. But if anyone has any other ideas what I could do for a consistent 1701 error when you know it ain't the cables and you know it ain't the controller, is there anything else I can do with this drive to try and revive it? Please let me know, because I really would like to get the data off of this and see what is on it and if it's original ComputerLand BC-88 software. Anyways, our format has finished. So now the question is, what do we do with the brand new formatted hard drive? Well, we install DOS on it. How do we install DOS on it? Well, we go to Google and we find an old forum thread. And there are a few commands that we run. So the first command we need to run is sys space c:. And that is the command that is going to basically copy our bootable system files onto the hard drive so that the hard drive will boot up rather than booting from the floppy. So we do that. And there we go, system files transferred. Now the next thing we want to do is, I don't think this is required in order for it to be a bootable drive, but generally you want to have all your DOS commands if you're going to have DOS on the hard drive, so that if you need to run a command to do something like to format or things like that, you have them there. You're going to want to MD, here we go to our C drive, a little MD backspace DOS. There we go. And we're going to want to copy all our files into our new DOS directory. So we're going to copy A:/ or C:/ DOS. And then the other thing we're going to do is we're going to want to copy our command.com file to the root of C. All right, copy command.com to C:/. And then we're going to want to copy our commands from disk 2 of DOS into our DOS directory on the C drive. So we're going to swap our floppies. We're going to do copy A:/ space C:/ DOS. And let's see. Johnny said he would do feet. Nah. well, I do have. Dune, did you get my video? I said doing a foot-related video to was that today or yesterday or some point? Anyways, so now this computer has DOS installed on it on a hard drive. We don't have to put a floppy drive into this every time we turn it on. So let's go ahead and let's do a three-fingered salute, and let's see if this computer boots up to our new DOS 3.30, 3.30 command. And hello, trending Capel. So we're just doing the reboot after doing our DOS installation on our newly formatted MFM hard drive. And once again, we need to put in the date. You know, 420 was the best day to do a stream that involves typing in the date like every 5 minutes. And there we go. It is 2225. And there we go. We are booted. Now we could add an autoexec.bat file and throw other commands in there to make the prompt look more normal and throw our directory out there automatically. We could dig into all that type of stuff, customize this a little bit. But I think what we're going to do, Dune asked about some Frogger. And I don't know about Frogger, but I do have a floppy disk here with a few games here. So what can we do now that we have a hard drive on this computer? Well, we could see, do we have a favorite game that we want to just easily access anytime? So if I come over to the A drive here, take a look at the directory. Well, over here, I got donkey.exe, which is Donkey Kong. So I suppose what we could do is we can come to the C drive, and we can make a directory for it. We'll make a directory called Donkey, and then we'll copy a:/donkey.exe to C:/donkey/donkey.exe. I probably didn't need to type in the file name a second time, but and there we go, just that simple. We have now installed Donkey Kong on this computer. So now we can put our floppy away to a safe place and not have to pull that out every time. And we can come over here and we could go cd donkey, and we could type in donkey, and it's going to ask if we have a joystick. Now the trick to PC Donkey Kong is to never play it with a joystick. And I prefer to say no to full color. What does full color mean? Full color means that it's going to be a green, red, yellow palette, whereas not full color means it's going to be a blue, purple, brown palette. And yeah, I mean, because there's two ugly looking CGA graphics modes. This is the one with the purple and the blue. The other one's with the green and the red and the yellow. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to play normal, one player. All right, and we basically want to just use our arrow keys, and spacebar makes us jump. Of course, the video I am looking at has a bit of a lag on it because I'm using my capture card, and so that is going to make me really off my game. I died before I even saw that barrel because I'm that delayed. Let me see if I look directly at the OBS feed, if I can get less delay here and actually play a game. Yeah, that's better. There we go. Just like being at the arcade, huh? Oh, and that's game over. So there you go. That's what you could do with one of these computers. So yeah. So anyways, there's a little video on there on how to deal with how to troubleshoot MFM hard drives, which is basically how to troubleshoot everything. Have known working parts and try known working parts with other things and figure out from there what works, what doesn't. But ultimately, if you could get things to boot up with a 1701 error, then the big thing is knowing how to format and set up an MFM hard drive, which we basically walk through that process here. So that was kind of really all I had. Also, I'll have to keep you all updated if I figure out anything else with that whole clock command software thing. Um, so that's pretty much my stream because I think, spending 2 hours watching me play PC Donkey Kong, it would not be fun for anyone. So, I mean, I have other games, but, even so. Um, but I'm probably going to park this hard drive, put it on the shelf. And I mean, this is a good spare drive. I have a few of these Seagate drives. They make good spare drives. I mean, it's like I said, I've unintentionally accumulated a number of ST225 Seagate hard drives. Um, so it's good to have in a pinch if you want to have something authentic to throw into an old um, DOS PC in a pinch, and a little bit of effort and a bit of accumulating of parts. It's not hard to do. That said, what am I going to do with this machine? I'm going to put the XTIDE card with the flash card in it back in here because it holds a whole lot more and is just so much more convenient. But I still have my other two computers on the floor here that do have MFM working hard drives in them. Although I got to tell you, my Tandon MFM hard drive, but the one that still works out of all of them, every time I put it away and pull it back out, I have to open up the tower, take out the hard drive, put a little bit of drop of machine oil on the spinning part, and work it a little bit to get it to spin up again. I'm not kidding. It works. It works every time. Every time I pull this thing out of storage, the hard drive seizes up, will not start up. I take it out. I work the little pin thing that spins around. I put a few drops of oil in there and I work it. And it springs back to life every time. So that's not good, and it doesn't suggest that it's long for this world. But those things are getting hard to find, and they're not cheap when you find working ones. And when you spend not cheap money on working ones, they tend to not keep working long, which is really frustrating to have a hobby of buying a specific hard drive for its sound that is not cheap and not reliable. So that's a bad combination right there. Um, but hey, cheaper than crack. Anyways, um, so Dune is not doing Carry On. Bummer. All right, Carry On's the way to go. You failed, Dune. So now the question for Dune is, Dune, you're flying at stupid early o'clock tomorrow, but does that mean at stupid late o'clock tomorrow or normal late o'clock tomorrow? When the Dune and Johnny show is going on, are you out to dinner with a group of people, or are you chilling at the hotel room to do an on-location Dune and Johnny show? Because I know Mod Pro is all geared up for more feet jokes, and we don't want to let Mod Pro down now, do we? Because if we let Mod Pro down, the terrorists win. Dune is most likely going to be having dinner. Oh, boo hiss. Oh, well. Anyways, I should have saved this for tomorrow. I should have done this stream tomorrow in lieu of the Dune and Johnny show. But I did it today. So I don't know if I'm going to have another topic to go solo tomorrow. But anyways, hopefully we'll be back next week. So yeah. Oh, Dune will let me know. So stay tuned. He might be doing dinner, but he might not. He might be having some to-go cheesecake waiting in his fridge for him after an early dinner. Who knows? We'll find out. Mod Pro ready? He already let me down tonight. Oh, let's all guilt trip Dune now. No, Dune. Enjoy your dinner. You deserve it after getting up at stupid o'clock tomorrow morning. All right. Anyways, KK, take care, peeps. All right. Good night, Dune. Good traveling. Good night, Mod Pro. Good night, everyone. And good night to all the future people that stumble onto this video. Oh, hey, cool thing happened. Years ago, when I was doing all those like tearing apart compact computer videos that was like, stupid long, horrible camera angles, barely watchable, someone left a comment in one that apparently my video was the only video that properly showed how to like mount or put in the drives into those cases and helped him with whatever custom job he was doing with one of those compact portables. So that to me was awesome. That one of my random late night spiel YouTube streams was actually useful to someone. So that was I really want to hear more about his project though. He did not reply to my reply though. But anyways, thank you everyone for watching. I hope someone out there might find this stream helpful at some point. And remember, stay away from those vintage inkjet printers. It is far more practical to play with MFM hard drives. All right. Good night, everyone.